Earlier this year, we went on a whirlwind trip around China, visiting 6 theme parks across 4 different cities in just under 12 days. And we got to experience a theme park that, well, I'm not really sure how to describe it. This is Window of the World, a one-of-a-kind theme park located in Shenzhen, China. Spread over 48 hectares, the park features more than 130 landmarks from over 30 countries, replicas of major attractions from every continent, apart from Antarctica. But then again, I don't really know anything that is a major structure in Antarctica. This place is difficult to describe. It's part gardens, part museum, part theme park, and part whatever this is. Window of the World, like me, is a little over 30 years old. At the time this park was built, China was moving into a new era. After years of isolation, the country started opening up to the rest of the world, and they were keen on proving that they belong on the world stage. Upon opening in 1993, a spokesperson of the park stated, "Window of the World symbolizes Shenzhen's openness, bridging China and the globe through cultural exchange by replicating global icons at home." But why build recreations of other countries' landmarks to prove to those countries that you're a global player? Well, for tourism, for pride, for propaganda, or maybe a little bit of all of the above. China could prove its admiration for cultures around the world whilst also showing citizens places that they couldn't yet travel to, or give them a look of the greater world outside their borders. Even today, over 30 years later, the park still operates in a way that showcases recreations of the world's grandeur to people who just can't travel internationally for whatever reason. Now, Shenzhen is a place that you've likely heard of, mostly because it's where most iPhones are made. But I can't imagine that it's at the top of your must-visit list. Chances are you're more interested in nearby places like Hong Kong or Macau or even Guangzhou. So why on earth were we here? Well, we came across this park because our flight to Shanghai just so happened to leave from Shenzhen Baoan Airport, and Window of the World is only a 45-minute drive away. Now, that might seem like a crazy distance to travel for some people, but firstly, Australians are built different because Australia is giant. And also cars are very cheap in China. Like, crazy cheap. A return Didi, which is basically a Chinese Uber, might cost you $10 to travel for an hour. No kidding, when we first landed in Shenzhen for our trip, we got a Didi from the airport to Chimelong Paradise, which is almost over 100 kilometers away. The driver warned us that because we were leaving his area, that we would not only have to pay for the trip to get there, but also his trip for him to get back. Well, kudos to him for letting us know. He was concerned that it might cost us too much, but it was our only option because it was getting late and most other transport options had stopped for the day. Driving almost 2 hours there, then him driving back, plus a tip for his trouble, cost us around $80. I've gotten Uber rides under 10 minutes that have cost more than that. Anyway, we didn't even get a Didi here because China has glorious public infrastructure. We got to the park via the subway. Kudos to the park, as it is very easy to access from the city or the airport. And speaking of the airport, that's where we left our bags before we got on our flight. Getting inside was pretty easy. Almost everything in China is digital using either WeChat or the Alipay app. If you visit China, then I guarantee that early on you're going to struggle with these apps, but by the end, I promise you, you'll be a pro. We got our tickets, scanned them at the top of the stairs, and we entered the park. Do you know why Disneyland has Main Street USA? Well, Walt imagined a theme park much like a movie. Main Street was your introduction to the experience, a tone setter, so to speak. Well, this is Window of the World's tone setter. No kidding, the first thing we see after entering the park is an absolutely ginormous amphitheater with one lady dancing to something on her phone backed by the Windows 8 default wallpaper. Ah yes, this is going to be one of those parks. Now, I probably should have mentioned at the start of the video that if you're looking for an in-depth analysis of every attraction with deep insight into the park, then this probably isn't the video for you. We had 2 hours at this park. As we mentioned earlier, we had a flight to catch, and we didn't particularly want to miss it. missing Shanghai Disneyland so we could spend more time at Window of the World would sure be a choice. Honestly, we weren't even going to make a full video on this place, but as you'll come to find out, Window of the World is a present to us all, and a gift that keeps on giving as we venture even deeper into its labyrinthian spiderweb of a layout. There is one big old loop that goes around the entire outer perimeter of the park, but because so much of the experience is looking at things and walking around other things, everything is pretty interconnected. Looking at the map, we had a few major landmarks that we had to visit, with the first, of course, being Australia. To get there, we had to go through Japan, which featured Mount Fuji, which apparently had a ride inside, which we could not find, and a giant cat emerging from the lake. And trust me, we don't have time to dwell on things like this, because that is just what this park is like. At this point, I was honestly really liking this park's vibe. It was very relaxed and kind of had this laid-back charm to it. It looked like something you'd find in a small town in the middle of nowhere run by an eccentric wealthy family, but nope, this is pretty much in the middle of a city where 17 million people live and has some of the most advanced factories in the world. Probably the only thing that ruined that vibe in some parts was that we were white. Weird thing to say, but in some parts of China, if you're white, you are a novelty. I was reading online that people from more rural areas could probably count on their hand how many white people they've seen in their lifetime, and at first this was honestly pretty confronting. Now, adults generally just stared, but any kids that saw us would repeatedly yell out, "Hello! Hello! Hello!" at the top of their lungs, sometimes followed by a very enthusiastic, "How are you?" If you ever replied, you almost always just got blank stares. I don't think many of these kids actually spoke English. I think they just heard these words in some of their media. And I don't even know what their intent was. It's just something to expect when you go to China, that you will most likely be different to everybody, and that to them that will be pretty exciting. Hello, I am back in Sydney. Just kidding. This is Window of the World because over there is New Zealand. But it actually says Aloha on that sign. So our first major destination was Australia, which has the Harbour Bridge, the Opera House, and Uluru. Genuinely, kudos to them actually calling it by its indigenous name and not just Ayers Rock. Next door was New Zealand and what I assume was Hawaii, which was a few huts in this room that says Aloha, with a TV and an air conditioner playing whatever this is. Apparently a show was about to start in the hut in 2 minutes, but we got too scared of being the only people there and run away. Also, something to realize is that if you go to somewhere like this, don't expect Polynesian people to be in the Polynesian area. They will almost always be Chinese. I've changed shirts. Thanks to today's sponsor, Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one management software that provides entrepreneurs with a range of applications to simplify the day-to-day management of their business, including invoicing, accounting, project management, inventory, website creation, and more. One of the best examples of how Odoo simplifies your workflow is their project application. It gives you a clear overview of all of your work by letting you create projects with custom stages, add and assign tasks, set priorities and deadlines, and include rich descriptions or subtasks for more complex workflows. Collaboration is seamless thanks to the built-in chatter, where you can send emails, leave notes, tag teammates, attach files, and schedule activities like calls, meetings, reminders, or to-dos all within the app. And you can manage everything in the view that suits you best, whether that's drag and drop Kanban boards or a timeline-style Gantt chart. And Odoo grows with you, allowing you to add additional apps as your business develops and your needs change. Odoo allows you to manage your projects for free with its lifetime free first app offer, including unlimited hosting and support. And you can access all these applications and more starting from $34.40 Australian dollars a month. Check it out using the link in the description, and thanks again to Odoo for sponsoring this video. Now back to Window of the World and my different shirt. Now, you know when you go to a museum, see something cool, go neat, and then move on? Yeah, that's very much what Window of the World is like. Prepared to just look at things and move along. Much like this definitely not Diagon Alley area, which, oh, nope, they just straight up called it Diagon Alley. Well, then here's a sign with the Magic the Gathering logo on it, just for good measure. We then saw some cats. They just kind of lazed around. It was pretty cool. And then we went to Europe. This area is actually really nice and had a little train which went around it. Guess what was the most exciting thing for most people to see from the train, though? That's right, it's the white guys. Europe fills a big chunk of the park, especially since the Eiffel Tower is one of the more prominent structures that you can actually see from outside of Window of the World. But another big chunk is taken up by Egypt. Did you know that beneath the pyramids is a scare maze? Our walkthrough of it might just be the greatest thing to happen to Australia and China's relations. After entering the scare maze alone, we quickly caught up with the group in front of us, who essentially used us as their shields for anything scary that might lie ahead. Now, this group was awesome. Honestly, almost everybody we interacted with in China was welcoming and super nice. We don't speak any Chinese here at ReviewTyme, but even just trying a little bit is a spectacle and will make you friends. Apart from the kids yelling at us, which, well, they're kids, a lot of people just wanted to know where we were from and what we thought of China. You get extra brownie points as well for being Australian, as everyone just seems to really like Australians for some reason. Past Egypt leads you into the part of the park that actually has some rides, which, well, was a surprise to me. The first one we noticed was this log flume, which, yeah, I ain't getting on that. Around the corner was the one currently open roller coaster in the park called Machu Picchu Maze City? Rice City? Yeah, we just called it the Jank Express. I'm not typically scared of roller coasters, but this one looked like the park's maintenance team had honestly forgotten that it existed. However, it was good fun. This indoor and outdoor coaster is a classic family-friendly experience that spends more time smashing you left to right than it does rolling or coasting. Now, it's pretty apparent when getting around this park that it hasn't had many updates, and I kind of find it fascinating that places like fake Diagon Alley have now essentially been replaced with real Harry Potter things in Universal Beijing. Like, the people of China can actually go to the places that it's trying to rip off. So that probably lends to some reason as to why these haven't really been updated all too much, because there probably isn't that much demand for them anymore. But really, nowhere was this more apparent that they haven't had an update in a while than the American portion of the park. Now, apparently inside Mount Rushmore is a flying theater similar to Soaring, but do you think we could find the entrance? Honestly, they are hiding their rides. At this point, we were nearing the end of everything we could experience during our time here. For a park with so many recreations, all of them were somewhat logical inclusions. We were honestly looking for more absurd bits and bobs to make fun of, but we could barely find any. But awaiting us towards the park exit, in a new section that was somewhat under construction, was a little surprise. If you're a theme park obsessed teenager who spent all their time looking up weird rides on YouTube, you will understand our excitement when we saw that this park had the King Kong Monkey Ride. Monkey Ride. This thing was a staple of YouTube thumbnails back in the day because of how bizarre it looks. And the bizarreness isn't just off-ride. This thing felt unexplainably weird to ride. With King Kong essentially lifting you up aboard your trolley car-shaped ride vehicle, jostling you around a bit to really test the seatbelt strength, and then putting you back down. It was something I had never really experienced before. Very cool addition. Now, the only other attraction we did was the Amazon Bobcart, a power bobsled where you control your own speed. Outside on the sign and in the promotional photos for this ride were promised dinosaurs, but I don't remember seeing any dinosaurs on this. Where were my dinosaurs, Window of the World? You do go through a crocodile's mouth at some point, but as we all know, crocodiles are not dinosaurs. They're closely related. Looking through historical records of the park, there are a few attractions they used to have that they no longer do, including a Journey to the Center of the Earth indoor dark ride coaster, and a ride that simulated you dying. Yes, there used to be a ride where you were strapped into a coffin, sent down a conveyor belt, scorched with 105 Fahrenheit or 40 Celsius heat to simulate being cremated, where you next found yourself in a womb-like room that you had to crawl out of to mimic rebirth. Well, golly, I sure wish that was still here. Now, as if the park knew that it was time for us to leave, they serenaded us with one of the most bizarre and absurd parades that we've ever seen. A truly on-par end to our few hours of insanity at Window of the World. Look, we have been to nearly 100 theme parks at this point, and after a while some of them get a little bit samey. It's easy to criticize Window of the World as being tacky or over the top, but it's got some genuine charm fostered from a bygone era where theme parks didn't really have a formula and park designers just did whatever crazy thoughts came to their head. And outside of those pockets of bizarre additions is a genuine theme park that allows locals and domestic travelers to see parts of the world that would otherwise be inaccessible and therefore unknown to them. Now, is this a good theme park? No, probably not, but was it a memorable one? Absolutely. For review time, I'm Dom. Thanks for watching.